Can alcohol withdrawals cause diarrhea? Yes, absolutely. This is a well-known feature of just about any withdrawal syndrome, whether it's from other drugs of choice like opioids, benzodiazepines, alcohol, all of the above. It causes abnormalities within the body. There's a sudden change in body chemistry, not just in the brain but throughout the digestive tract as well, and this can lead to diarrhea. The good news is that the diarrhea is short-lived, tends to last 2 to 3 days, maybe up to a week, becomes less severe over time. So don't be alarmed. This is a common thing that happens with withdrawing from any substance of abuse, and that it is generally short-lived. The way to treat it is to try to hydrate as best as possible, not just with water but with electrolyte containing solutions that are not too sweet. So a Gatorade tends to be very sweet, as is juice, but watering down the Gatorades, watering down the juices is the best way to go to rehydrate and start feeling a little bit better. Can alcohol withdrawals last months? Yes and no. The short term, actually, with the short term detox process only lasts from 2 to 3 days, sometimes up to a week. That's what's known as acute early onset recovery. But there is something that is called post-acute withdrawal syndrome, PAWS. This can occur for about a year after abstinence, and this is similar to acute withdrawal but not as severe, but similar symptoms where a person can have difficulties with concentration, difficulties finding their words, they can become irritable, angry for no apparent reason, and this is a very real phenomenon. It relates to the fact that the brain is not quite reset. Even though in the 2-3 days of a detox, it takes much longer, about a year, for their body and mind to recover from the imbalance of neurotransmitters created by the alcohol dependence in the first place. So that kind of summarizes it there, that hallucinations and other abnormalities can last for a short term, but over the longer term though, with the post-acute withdrawal, it can last months up to a year. But the good news is that it gets better with time. The post-acute withdrawal becomes less severe, less intense, and less frequent over time. Can alcohol withdrawals kill you? Yes, it is potentially a dangerous thing. When we're saying withdrawals, this is typically somebody who has been consuming alcohol frequently for a long period of time. This is somebody formerly known as an alcoholic, but this is the proper terminology, somebody with alcohol abuse or alcohol use disorder. Regardless of the terminology, it is a potentially dangerous situation if this person goes cold turkey and stops consuming alcohol. This can precipitate withdrawal and cause withdrawal. And in this situation, they feel very uncomfortable and irritable at first. This can progress to more irritability, moodiness, agitation. They can start developing tremors, so shaking, involuntary shaking of the hands or fingers, or of the face. Their speech could be affected, and the worst case scenario is they go into something called delirium tremens, and this is an older term, but it means that they can start hallucinating, they can start seeing things that aren't there, or they can smell things that aren't there. And the tremens refers to the tremors, the involuntary body movements. If they continue along this pathway without any more alcohol or without any benzodiazepine medications to mitigate these symptoms, they can progress to seizure, and this can be potentially life-threatening. Without treatment, the person can have status epilepticus, which is a form of seizure which is non-stop, and this is potentially fatal. So this is why it's very important for somebody who is considering abstaining from alcohol to get medical advice, to go to a proper detox center. If they are going to detox at home, it is possible, but they need to get on a prescription for a benzodiazepine from a medical professional. This is what prevents going into the delirium tremens and the seizures, and prevents unintentional death. So Valium is the most commonly used one. This is used for 2 or 3 days at a time, and then they wean off the Valium, and this now puts them in a stable condition where they're now ready to take on the more important part of recovery, which is learning about the lifestyle changes. Can alcohol withdrawal cause hives? I personally have not heard of this, but anything's possible. It is a strain, a stress on the system when a person is going through withdrawal, and it can cause a rash. Hives are generally a term used for an allergic symptom, which is not really what's going on in alcohol withdrawal, but certainly rashes can occur when a person is under stress. If these are itchy, that's a sign perhaps there is an allergic reaction going on, but it's not really caused by alcohol withdrawal from my own experience. The way to treat this, though, is to see a medical professional. Perhaps an antihistamine might help in this situation, one taken by mouth or even ones as a lotion put on the skin. So to summarize, can alcohol withdrawals cause hives? Generally no, but perhaps it's another skin rash that this person is referring to, and rashes can occur in all types when a person is under stress, and this certainly occurs, stress definitely occurs when a person is going through alcohol withdrawal. Can alcohol withdrawal cause hallucinations? Yes, absolutely it can. Somebody who's been consuming alcohol for a longer period of time, let's say over 6 months, and on a regular basis, more than 3 times a week during this time, this is a typical example of the minimum, where if they were to stop consuming alcohol, within 24 hours or so they'll become very irritable, they're going through a withdrawal syndrome. And this can progress to tremor and hallucinations. The old-fashioned term for this is delirium tremens. The delirium part is referring to the hallucinations. So seeing the pink elephant in the room is the old-fashioned way. But absolutely yes, they can see things, they are seeing things that aren't there. This is the definition of hallucinations. But there's also olfactory or odor hallucinations. They can smell things that aren't there. So there's visual, there's also sound hallucinations where they can hear things that aren't there. Either way, this person is losing touch with reality. It does somewhat mimic a psychosis in which they lose touch with reality, and it's a temporary thing as long as they're medically stabilized. So the way to avoid the hallucinations and anything worse than that, like seizures and status epilepticus, which is an emergency seizure that's non-stop and leads to death, the way to stop all of this is to get on a medication called a benzodiazepine, and this is just for short-term use. Valium is the most common one, and it's used only for 2 or 3 days, sometimes up to a week, where these medications help ease the withdrawal syndrome from alcohol and prevent the onset of delirium tremens and seizure. So to summarize, yes, alcohol can cause hallucinations of all sorts, whether it's auditory, olfactory, or odor hallucination, or visual hallucination. It can also cause non-stop seizures, and so it is very important in this situation for them to seek medical attention. It is an emergency, so they can get on a stabilizing medication, which is Valium.